Howdy, howdy. Welcome to episode 17 of the Watching Privacy Show on, what is it, October 29th? Yeah, that sounds about right. 29th,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what we'll
right.
say it is. And we've got Raju and Brent with us as always. And let's dive in. I think we got a lot to talk about this week. A bunch of smaller articles. I guess maybe just to top off, this was actually pretty good, but it's also I don't know, like water's wet. I didn't realize it took an FTC report to figure this one out. But basically, they looked into the major ISPs, which is like your Charter or your Spectrum, basically Verizon, Google Fiber, T-Mobile, and Comcast. I guess probably are those six. And well, who knew they have a monopoly on basically the entire internet connectivity market? And what do they do with that dominant position? They basically suck up all your data and use it in a lot of different ways and don't make it easy for you to be able to opt out. And yeah, I mean, basically just everything we kind of knew. But I mean, I think it's a good thing the FTC finally shedding light on what is ultimately the pipes that go into everybody, right? We're all talking about constantly Facebook or Google or websites and services that we access, and we say that those are kind of the more nefarious actors. But ultimately, it's the pipes that are coming into your home or your business, which is what these ISPs provide. And at that level, there's a deep amount of tracking and analysis and basically surveillance that's happening, which I hope opens, I guess, or shed some light on the situation a little bit better because they can track everything. I mean, the websites are just top level, but this is every bit of information, every website, every query, research, everything, all that data that you're sending in and out, back and forth. The ISP has control of it. So, arguably, I would say they're the worst actors in basically the entire world, to put it lightly. But what did you guys think of this? I mean, we know a lot about them, but happy to hear what you guys think too.
I'm really glad FTC is jumping into it. I think that's a good positive thing, and a lot of people, or at least hopefully, a lot of people will take notice. We knew that they were collecting all this information. We knew that they are sharing this with third parties, selling the browsing data and whatnot. Some people may not know the correlated data, where they're combining your browsing history with your TVs along with your location and then selling that data. Because, in other words, ISPs are data brokers. And if you think they're not, maybe I have the courage to sell. But that is the reality. Now, the real worst, where it gets maddening is you're paying them for a service, and then they're making money off of it. They're using that data you're getting out of it to make money in additional ways. Yeah, so they are obviously double dipping in like many other vendors in the technology industry, and which is not a good sign. That the trust factor goes away with this. So there are other things where you do not have an easy way to get out, which the FTC finds, and which we all know there is no easy way to get out. The second aspect to that is they say that, and FTC found that they say that they are selling this information not just to ad companies, but sometimes to unrelated businesses. And that is where the second and third level consequences of selling this data to unrelated parties is unknown. It'll come and bite us a little later.
It well, I like this look better. That's the thing about all this. It doesn't seem like it takes a whole lot of skills, so to speak, to piece together your data. It may be going in all these different directions, and one service gets a little piece of this data, another service gets a little piece of that data, and then a third another piece of data. But it seems like it's getting pretty easy for these folks to connect these data spots up and get all your data and not just get it once. It's like a perpetual stream. It's not a snapshot. It's basically your life as you live it, and that's the thing that really, as great as this technology that we have, and we love it, and it provides us opportunities to do a lot of really cool things, and to experience a lot of cool things, and it entices us to do even more. That just creates more data for these brokers to collect and sell. And it's just I feel like I'm starting off already on the downslope, but it's just it's one of those things where every week we seem to find different stories of how these companies are giving us a little something but taking a lot more than what we think.
Yeah, a couple of things, based on the browsing patterns, they are also building behavioral profiles out there, which ad companies love. Then there are other aspects to it, which is they're so-called affiliates. They're working with affiliates to get additional information, be it from email or other communication data and others, which frankly I did not uh, appreciate and did not know. And they are using that information to build profiles and then through ads and whatnot. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are ad providers themselves, because at the end of the day they own the distribution channel out here, and they use this information and add their own platform. So on top of other data brokers, and then other monopolies or duopolies like Google and Facebook, we have ISPs acting as an important data broker that are also trying to get into this ad business. That the culprit really is that ad business because of the money in there. I wonder if we'll reach a point where the because you have to question, where is all this ad money coming from? It's product companies and services companies trying to offer, and there could be a point where there might be a pushback. We don't know when that will come, but wonder how will it be when if there is an alternative model to advertising.
I mean, I- 9 times soon, because ultimately advertising, I wouldn't call it free money, but basically that's what it is. It's an easy way to add an additional revenue stream to a business model, and why not, right? I mean, you got nothing to lose basically. And so, I don't know, some fundamental change has to happen in order for that to happen. I guess I don't want to say like the ISPs are, tracking you so there's no hope at all. I would say one thing, maybe just a tip for people that watch is you should definitely, one of the first things I do almost even on my phones and computers is if you have like your home internet or whatever, you should change your DNS providers. Probably Cloudflare has a good one. I think 1.1.1.1, where you can change things, and there's some privacy centric ones you can find online. But basically, a very short explainer is like DNS is what converts like an IP address into a website, and basically it's like a phone book for websites, if you will. So it converts a phone number to a name, which is essentially what's happening. And so by default, your home router or whatever, it's using AT&T's or Comcast or whatever their service to use that lookup, and every time you look something up, they track it. So if you change your DNS provider, that provides a first line of defense in terms of a little bit of privacy. And I think Cloudflare has like a family one as well, where it'll block certain websites and things like that. But if you search online for like DNS change home internet, you'll find a good amount of tutorials and websites that have some information there. So I think that's a good takeaway, at least, or an action item people can do at least.
And I also don't go with the router or Wi-Fi thing they provide, because that's an easy way. You're basically adding their device in your home and giving them complete access to that. And the so-called bundling of TV and internet is something I don't do. Well, you're making it easy. They don't even have to be a data provider. They are basically aggregating everything, and or you're aggregating everything and offering your data in a platter. So things like that can be done. And also, they have this service where once you have your Wi-Fi network go through their router, you'll be able to log into their networks anywhere, anywhere in town or maybe in the country is what they promote. But that certainly gives them information on your location, and they build up the profile based on that. So these are things to watch out.
And all these things that you just pointed out, uh, I think most people when they sign up for an ISP, and the offer is either it's offered and encouraged, just use our our technology, our devices, we'll get you set up easy. You don't have to worry about anything. And it sounds so great. I mean, a lot of folks are not really tech savvy, and they don't even know about routers and wireless routers and modems. So the offer to have the company, do that and free, I think most people just take it up as oh, this is great. It's going to save me having to figure this stuff out. But the other end of that is just what you said. It's like putting almost like putting a camera, a security camera in your house, which you really don't know how the security camera works because you've never really thought about it. You just say everybody else has one. I guess I better have one too.
Mhm.
And then you kind of open the door for a lot of things that you just didn't think about because it's presented in a way to make it easier for you to use this stuff.
I don't even think it's always free. So I've heard stories both ways where an ISP will charge people $10 a month or whatever for using their router, and I've also seen ISPs charge 5, $10 a month for not using their equipment, for like bringing your own equipment. It's like a surcharge, so it's like it's a
Wow.
lose lose. But yeah,
Think about
basically,
that.
like Roger.
They pay you to use their tool, and then they take the data and do whatever it is they want with the data.
Yeah.
But Brent, just like you paid for a lot of Alexa devices.
It always comes back. Oh my god! All right, should we be moving along at this point?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll talk about a different what do you call smart home assistant made by Google. And so I didn't think that this got nearly enough press that it probably should have. Probably because it's
Yeah,
like unsubstantiated, or maybe it hasn't really been fully fleshed out. But I mean, there are court documents that got unsealed. So, I mean, it's pretty. I would say it's not like hearsay or anything like that. But it has our four favorite friends: Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, all the big hitters. Sorry, we can't call it Facebook anymore. Meta is going to be how we refer to these fellas from now on, and maybe even Alphabet. And I think it just shows that the fact that we're calling it Google still in the article title shows that nobody cares about a parent company name change. It doesn't. It's still referred to as Google. I don't think I've ever seen an article that starts with Alphabet sought fellow tech giants help installing. Right? Like nobody. Beyond the point. Basically, I mean, this was all about basically just everything bad, I would say. But they came up with some sort of coordinated effort to try to, I would say, steer regulation in terms of children's privacy a certain way, and they tried to get Facebook on board. I think there was a really good Twitter thread actually too. I don't know if you have that as well, Brent. Um, that kind of summarizes a lot of the topics, sensationalized a little bit. But yeah, I mean, basically, this guy comes through faster than lime, and he finds all sorts of stuff. So I think the next tweet is basically they got a secret deal with Facebook called Jedi Blue. That was so illegal that it has a whole section describing how they'll cover for each other. G Trade artificially dedicated to ad market manipulation, which I think is a big thing we can go into a deep dive for because there's a lot that goes there that people don't really understand. And then the Project Nero thing was with Microsoft, I believe. Um, and oh no, Project Nero was something about a walled garden or something like that, where basically they force your Chrome browser to, or not force, but they encourage strongly to connect it with your Google account, and just like fire after fire, this guy's posting the summary posts of based on the data that was unsealed. But I mean, each one of these can have a pretty deep dive on its own. But what was your favorite violation that you found?
Yeah, I
What a
mean,
great.
frankly, none of these surprise me at this point. Google is no longer trying to pretend to be the do no evil company it used to be, right? That's way back in the history. So it's going all in towards milking whatever it can in the ad industry. You've seen their quarterly results this week, and it's
Yeah.
going all in that. Yeah, Google
Mhm.
is just like Facebook, morally bankrupt. I don't see which one's worse. I don't know which one's worse. It's a flip of a coin for me. But yeah, all of these are frankly expected from Google from my side.
I'll just throw some numbers up because Roger, you mentioned numerous times as we do these episodes how ad being an ad business and any other kind of business and privacy just doesn't mix. And once you kind of dip your toe in the ad lane, you kind of become addicted to it. And I think Amazon reported 8 billion in revenue in their revenue category that is mostly advertising, which is up 49% year over year. And Google reported YouTube brought in 7.2 billion in ads in the third quarter, up 43%. So while everything else was, I mean, other parts of the business seem to be slowing down, and you saw the impact it's having on everybody basically. And stock prices are getting just taken out. Uh, Ad business is doing pretty good, for Facebook and Amazon at least.
I mean, 8 billion's not a small amount by any means. And I also, I mean, generally speaking, I don't even think that many people realize how important ads is to Amazon. Most people think of Amazon just shopping and maybe AWS if they're fairly inclined, but the ad market is what they're really pushing for. And obviously white label products, but white label product or first, yeah, white label products is not a big revenue driver. Ads is really what takes them a lot because basically companies have to bid against Amazon for products that Amazon makes that compete against the other person's product. It's quite the circle that they got going on there.
Can I call an audible? And since we're talking a little bit about this, I mean, right before we got started, we had this article come out from the information folks. Amazon and Roku gird for battle over viewer data and latest streaming drama. And, Roku is like by far the leader in these streaming desktop or TV top devices. I saw where they have 39% of the market, but so they're selling devices. But what they're really doing well in is converting those sales of devices into people watching content. Some of that content, of course, is coming from all these other services like Amazon and Netflix and whatever. So although they sell devices, they make $500,000 excuse me, 500 million on ad revenue. And so this article points out that Amazon and Roku are starting to, they're partners, but for how long? Because they're starting to butt heads, and it's not on the money, it's about on the viewer data. Like Amazon wants more of it. I think I have here. Amazon is expected to press for more detailed data about what TV shows Roku customers watch, and Roku doesn't want to give it up. Just give it to them.
Yeah,
it all comes back to the data. It all comes back to our data and the impact that data can have on driving ad revenue. It's really interesting.
I mean, during the last, say, decade and a half, the wild success of Google led to a lost decade in innovative business models. Now everyone's getting into ads because there's money there. That's where the good old model of selling device and just keeping your customer happy, just that alone no longer works. Now you have to make money in alternative ways and continue showing profits and growth and whatnot, and that keeps going. And there are multiple angles to it, a financial angle to it and whatnot. But I think we have had a last decade of innovative business models, and I hope things changes. I don't see anything on the horizon, but things have to change. For otherwise, all the smart people are going towards figuring out how to make people click on ads, and that's not a productive thing.
yeah.
Return on attention, right?
Yeah, Roku's always been. I mean, Roger said a couple episodes back, but about how Google's an ads company that happens to make search or whatever, and Roku's. I mean, I think first and foremost has always been an ads company that happens to make devices that they sell at a loss, hopefully to recoup it later. So I mean, yeah, I start to compete with like a $50 stick that they make. It's pretty solid, but we see all these big platforms, Apple, Amazon, Google, making their own streaming devices specifically for this reason, right? So they can control everything about not just their own video platforms, but other video platforms that people are watching as well. So yeah, I don't know how to really do it. Maybe the best thing is like, I mean, I still think an Apple TV is probably the best way, but I'm sure there's it's not like Apple doesn't do ads like we talked about last week too. So there's not really a really good one. But good news, I guess we'll go flip back and forth. States toughening up on privacy laws for at-home DNA tests. This is a very dark path, because I don't think people realize what actually happens when you do like 23andMe or Ancestry.com or one of these websites where you have these DNA tests. You do like a swab, and it'll tell you your genealogy or something like that. That's supposedly accurate, and the amount of data that you're giving up, what kind of information goes into a database. It also, I'm pretty sure, goes into government databases like police and stuff like that. And so a lot of that data is opt-in. And so I'm glad that they're trying to toughen up these privacy laws a little bit. I think there's some details on one of the slides here, right? Yeah, so basically requires customers to give consent before genetic data can be used for scientific research or shared with a third party. Shared with a third party shouldn't even be the case, right? Like, goes back to what Raju was talking about, business models. Like, just give me the information and charge me more and end it there, right? I mean, the sharing with third parties is unnecessary, and I don't think people realize that's exactly what happens, and how these at-home DNA tests make a good chunk of their money.
Yeah, I mean, this is one level deeper than what we historically talked about, which is, biometric. Now they're going all the way to DNA and linking that to ads. How worse can it get, right? So it's crazy. And the other use cases, there are some decent, valid use cases out there, but again, that's a minority. You're using that 1 or 2% of valid use cases, and using that as an excuse for the other 98%. And now how where this will end up in 5-10 years.
Hey, I just wanted to circle back because Thomas Weavernight has given us a few good, interesting comments going back to the ISP thing. Xfinity is more expensive if you do not also rent their mode. So they're going to get you either way, but it seems, far be it for me to say that seems like a bad move. But if you really want the data, why wouldn't you just give up the little device? Why? That's just being greedy at this point. That's the way I look at it. If you really, because you're going to get more money if you're from beyond the $4 or $5 a month you're going to charge. That's just being greedy. Just take my data and let me have my $5 at least. Don't make me give you both. That's just greedy.
It'll be very obvious in that case, Brent. They don't want it to be obvious.
They're smart. They're in the immortal words of Michael Jackson. So you're telling me they're smooth criminals, and they're trying to do that. All right, I get it.
Yeah, his Thomas's second comment was interesting. I didn't realize this happens. In Austin, or maybe in Texas in general. I don't think we really have Comcast as an internet provider. Just the way that these guys divvied up like regions and stuff like that. But I assume he's referring to private relay being the new Apple feature and not being compatible with their services. That seems kind of problematic, if you ask me. I'm surprised that hasn't picked up a little bit more steam, because I can't imagine Apple would be happy about that, and it kind of seems like it would go against something in terms of interoperability, and just kind of maybe even along the lines of net neutrality. Like, everything should just kind of be able to work.
I mean, I believe the mail providers have to support private relay, and there could be some challenges there. So, which means Apple has to work with every mail server or mail provider to get that working. And that, there are some pros and cons to it. The challenge with that is, if it's not a standard protocol or a standard that is defined by the industry. It is something that is pushed by Apple. And what happens when every one, like maybe Google might come up with something like that? Yeah, Google will have everything together in there. So some providers will support it, but there has to be a broader standard globally, or at least at a country level.
Good to know that works. Something. I mean,
all right, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thanks, Thomas. That was great.
Yeah. Let's see. We can do a little bit of I would say, a deep dive. I think we've mentioned this a couple of times in previous shows, but when Google announced Flock for the first time, it was kind of a federated learning of cohorts, and we talked about how a cohort is just a group of people with some set of characteristics, and if you add enough characteristics, you get down to basically a cohort of one, which is individual targeting. So even though people will say that we can't individually target somebody, yeah, you can. You probably, it's like wordplay, right? Like, yeah, I can't target Brent Leary with an ad, but I can target, diehard Rams fans that spend probably an insane amount of money on Fanatics or something like that, right? In a certain location, and
Yeah,
also
that
spends a
you'll
lot
get
of
me
money
right
on
away on that one.
Amazon.com. Yeah,
Yes, you'll get me.
with
Yes.
with 30 plus Alexa devices. I think it narrows it down quite a bit. And so he would be in that cohort. And so there was a couple stories I think we briefly mentioned last week, and we got the stories up this time. But this one guy, I think it's a guy, whatever, this person, pranking his roommates with targeted Facebook ads. And more of a funny story, but basically him and his roommate got into, I think, a little bit of a spat. And the way Facebook works, and a lot of people don't realize this, is especially if you haven't run digital ads before, they have this option for uploading a list of like your customers, right? So if I'm a small business and I run like a coffee shop and I get people's emails addresses, I can upload them as a list of emails and all the associated Facebook accounts. And so if I want to market to my existing customer base, I easily can. I will definitely, maybe next week, I'll go through. There's a way to navigate your Facebook settings, and you can basically see how many lists you're a part of. And it's a very scary practice if you have Facebook and you haven't turned this feature off, and you have to manually, like one by one, and go and unsubscribe from them. But you'll see all sorts of companies that you recognize, and I would say what's even scarier is companies you don't recognize that have uploaded your email address because they've got it from got it one way or another. And then once that email address list is uploaded, targeting can happen. So what this fellow here does is basically uploads a list of email addresses and then targets a subset of those quote customers or emails that he uploaded, and goes down the rabbit hole here. So this is what do you call it? A sword swallower, basically. And so while he didn't broadcast it publicly, it was a source of great amusement to those to him that knew it. What do you call it? The idea was to sell a fake product that helps people take pills without gagging and have it speak only to sword swallowers, which is quite the cohort of a few, I would imagine. And so he does some trickery, uploads his list, targets a certain subset based on some interest and the customer list, and bada bing, bada boom, he's able to target this person. The second story we have is a little bit of a deeper one, where this LinkedIn hack person says he makes 120 grand on LinkedIn, and basically what they do, or what he did was what do you call? Let's see, he was running a startup when he came across an article on TechCrunch that changed everything. Incubator in San Francisco was giving 120,000 to anyone accepted into the program. What do you call? Kept one spot open for entrepreneurs reading this post, and so this person basically creates ads on LinkedIn, and it cost him a cent. When you went through it, a penny to target based on the characteristics of like the person who wrote the article and who's in charge and their title and the company and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's one, crazy that you can target a single person, and two, how cheap it is to target people. I would think you'd probably charge a little bit more, but clearly not. But yeah, I mean, obviously targeting is very real, and micro targeting is very possible. Even if people tell you that they can't target individual users, it definitely can happen, as long as you know the person well enough. But what do you
Let's
guys
go back
think?
to that top number there.
Mhm.
$120,000, and how much did it cost him to get started with that? A cent.
Yeah, that targeting individual, I think we discussed this in our last show.
Yeah.
The cohort of one is possible.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're using services that require you to log in. So LinkedIn and Facebook in this case, you can upload an email address. I can upload, if I want to target, say, a particular person, let's say Brent, I'll add his email address along with 10 other email addresses that are fake. And that way, to meet that minimum requirement, and then make it work. And remember, you can always say maybe ABC +1, +2, +3, and whatnot. Not sure if Facebook takes it, but there are ways to trick the system. And so the fact that you can even use a email address and a phone number to target an individual, that tells you you can really target the individuals out there. Same thing with LinkedIn. I think they have a minimum requirement of 7 people. Like, if you want to target, in this case, I think he's targeted the CEO of a particular company. Maybe they won't allow it, but he also targeted other CEOs. You can add other CEOs out there. You don't expect an Amazon CEO or a Microsoft or maybe Google CEO or Apple CEO to look at that ads, and that way you kind of use others to filter or to get to that number, but you can get to your target market. I think the doing it using services that require a login is frankly not surprising. But doing it with companies like Google, targeting without that don't require a login is also possible. And that is where, that is done, that can be done through fingerprinting. Maybe we should do a deep dive one of these days on fingerprinting.
Yeah,
How many
I think
people
so.
use a certain browser on a certain device, who have certain set of extensions installed on their browser from a particular location with a certain screen resolution, and window size being a certain thing, and have a certain set of drivers installed on your computer, right? Well, you'll slowly, once you put in enough filters out there, you'll get to that cohort of one without even mentioning the email addresses or phone numbers like that. That cohort of one is certainly, that targeting is possible today, particularly location and whatnot. Even though if you're not logged in, that's possible totally today.
Going back to, did we talk about last week how the one guy targeted the Reddit CEO and he did get a response? I mean, there are a lot of very smart, intelligent folks out there, and it's almost like I feel like I'm getting like Raju. None of this stuff has started to surprise me. At first, it was like all like really, wow. And every time I would say really, wow, Raju's response, well, yes, this has been going on. This is not a surprise. It's getting to that point because cohorts of one. When you think about it, like you're talking about, Tejas, with Facebook, you if you've got just a piece of information, you could upload it and they do the search to try to find people that are matching, that kind of criteria. And just to think about all the people, I mean, they got what, over almost like 2 or 3 billion active daily users. So there's a certain percentage of those people every day. There's people doing this, and just think about, we talk about the 3,000 data points that Axiom has. Can you imagine what Facebook has? I mean, when you think about Axiom has, X amount of people using their system. Facebook has 3 billion, across their family of products every day. A percentage of those folks are uploading, trying to find, part of people to sell to that match the other people that they've already sold to. So the database that we're probably have to think about the scale of this meta thing, which they want to do, because it's the amount of data that they get, and it's not just one and done. It's constantly refreshed and flowing for people who don't even know that don't want to be in a Facebook account. They don't have their own Facebook account, but if somebody they know puts them in one of these, look for people like this, and they upload, you can't even stop it. And to
Yeah.
me, that's the biggest problem and the challenge of, what if you're somebody who absolutely detests, Raju doesn't want to be in any of this stuff, but anybody who has Raju's email address, who says, "Oh, I want to get more people like that I'm already associated with, and they just so happen to have his email address and just throw it up there, he's in."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have seen that with Clubhouse, where if you start using Clubhouse, they want your contact list, right? And I actually, deleted the Clubhouse because I do not want to upload my friends and family's personal information to Clubhouse just to get access to a free application. And well, there are a lot of people that basically don't think, are unaware of this. They simply upload that, provide access, and all the data is streamed into that, and that provides all the information about people who don't even have an account with Facebook, and they create that, I guess, the metadata of all people who are not even on the system.
Metadata. I feel like that's a better name for these fellows. So,
I seriously thought they were going to call themselves MetaBook or something like that before they came out with.
I thought it was a
Yeah,
joke in the first place, but
I mean, it still is. I don't know. I don't know why it's past tense with you, Raju, but it's still present for me.
yeah. Anyway, that's a different topic altogether. Generally in that context, when to walk off the casino floor is a good skill to learn, to know. And I thought Larry Page
Sergey
and Jeff
Brin.
Bezos,
Jeff
Brin and Jeff Bezos knew when to walk off the casino floor, and because they probably saw all the lawsuits piling up, and they said it's probably time to hang up. So I suspect that's what's going on here. In this case, I don't think it probably is a little late, but I see this as an early move where in the coming years I won't be surprised if Zuck promotes himself to Meta and eventually becomes the chairman and let other people worry about these lawsuits. At some point, it gets you. In the other two cases, Google and Amazon, they predicted it. In this case, it's after. I think it's happening a little late. But I see this move as a similar move that Google made with Alphabet.
But I feel like the Alphabet name change was, I mean, I don't think they were nearly as bad of a PR crisis as Facebook was. It was kind of like spinning off maybe like their weird moonshot ideas and maybe separating it, not like well justified. But Facebook is, I mean, it's a pure play trying to, fix this PR nightmare that they have. And so I think it's just kind of a scramble. And I mean, the video that they put out, we can go into that one, but that was quite the show. It was actually really hard because I clicked there. I read the article, I think on The Verge, and they embedded like the link to like Mark Zuckerberg's keynote. So I went to click on it, and it opens up on like Facebook.com and has like the login banner and stuff on the top. And then you start playing it, and it's like, all right, cool. First of all, the player sucks. Second of all, you can't even like when you start like skipping through it to like find different sections. Once I skipped through maybe like a third or a halfway through, it was like log in to watch the video, and it's like, hold on, like first of all, this video should not be like behind a login requirement for your own company that you want to make publicly as a keynote that's like publicly available. And at that point, it was just not worth it whatsoever, obviously, to dig through. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the name just seems arguably to try to curtail like public opinion. Really, not really.
Yeah, I mean,
much else to it.
there are in the case of Google, I think the reasoning is probably different. And after you get to a certain level, these guys start to think about legacy. Or do you want your legacy to be written as the pioneers of ad company? How many CEOs want to be known as the pioneers of the smoking companies out there, or whatever, the cigarette companies out there, right? Well, just the same way you get associated with that. So you try to do whatever is in your power to just disassociate yourself into that, and then you create a meta organization and try to go down that path. And that's what Google has done. And in this case, Facebook is going down that path, but just the difference is every single product is an ad company. So I don't think it helps the cause, but this at least allows him to just move to better and let someone else worry about these lawsuits.
Wow. The fact that do they really think that by changing their name that makes a difference? I mean,
I'm going to change the world, bro.
I don't get
You
it.
just don't know.
Yeah, you can change the world. Is right. We're going to the metaverse, and no, I mean, to me, it's like I don't know. This doesn't do anything but bring more negative attention. When you thought, how could they bring more negative attention? I don't know. Their business model is still selling ads.
Yeah,
That hasn't changed a bit.
it just popped in my head. I wish I had the screen cap before it, but there was a funny tweet for a while. There was I forgot what started it, but on Twitter there was like a kind of like a phase, might still be going on, where like you'll say some like false statement and then they put a bunch of like red flags after it as just like this obviously is like not true. And there was like a screen cap of Zuck uh from the video, and it says we're building the metaverse with privacy and security at its core or something like that. And it was just like I don't even know how you can have the balls to like say that with like a straight face, I guess, in his robotic face, but that's probably how. But basically, it's I mean, you can't security. I'll give it to you, but privacy. I mean, come on, like
Mm.
it's, I don't know who you're trying to fool with that one.
It's got to be honest about it. I mean, look, yeah, we want to do business, and we want to create products and services for people to use. And the reason why we want to do that is because we can, leverage your attention and your data into, at least be upfront and don't try to front. I mean,
Yeah,
and some people will be fine with that. Some people won't, but at
Brent,
least
it's
you're,
because
you're telling it like it
you,
is.
Brent, you're
yeah.
expecting Facebook to be upfront.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you're not upfront about something because I wouldn't say ashamed, but like you're not proud of your business model is the only way you're not truthful about why or how you do things, right? I mean, at a baseline, only reason anybody's ever shady about something is because you yourself know that this isn't the most right, wholesome, moral thing to do. And that's why you do this rigmarole dance in terms of, oh, we're connecting the world or whatever. Just say what it is. You want to connect the world, there's a cost to it. How do we make money? We got to serve some ads. And so we take a little bit of your data and we make some ads for you. Bada bing, bada boom. Just, simple, to the point. I don't know. I think when you try to like treat people like they're dumb or something like that, it tends to backfire as it
Yeah,
is with these guys, right?
it's the condescension that really, you really expect me to believe that. That's that's what really gets me. And yet, and still, I use Facebook, but I know what I'm getting
Isn't this
into
being
by
streamed
using
on
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah, it's being streamed on Facebook. So I mean, all of that being said, it's like I still think if you know what you're getting into ahead of time, don't and you should know what you're getting to ahead of time. Don't worry, you shouldn't have a lot of outrage, if certain things happen.
Mhm.
I don't put everything out on Facebook, but then as we just talked about, if anybody knows me has certain pieces of information, I'm probably in Facebook like 1,000 times over in ways I don't even know. But I'm okay with it because the stuff that I do put out, I know I'm putting it out. I'm okay with that. There's not a whole lot of stuff that you know. That's just me. I'm an older dude. I mean, I'm not a kid who doesn't think about this
No, come
kind of
on, Brent.
stuff.
You're not an older
And
guy.
Tejas, I have to break it to you, man. I've got an AARP card. All right, but I'm just saying, teenagers don't think like adults, and some adults don't think like adults when it comes to this stuff too. And I think that's the main issue is that and that these companies are willing to take advantage of that and not have, like you were saying, Tejas, kind of the upward, our principles are privacy and let's be honest about it. Your principles are maybe that, but it's also about getting paid and making money.
Yeah.
And if your business is ads, or if your business is return on attention, which is really the heart of a lot of this stuff, is we need to create ways to get people's attention, and then we can convert that attention into ads or revenue, or I should say into revenue. And one of the easiest ways for them to do that is through ads. All right, be honest about it and say, yeah,
Yeah.
we try to do privacy, but in the context of what's still a business and an ad business, then at least you can feel good about certain things. But a lot of these companies, and I'm not going to name specifics, but a lot of these companies, they know that there's some addictive tendencies and personalities, and that they make a lot of their money off of that. That's where it gets, they've crossed the line when it comes to that kind of stuff, I think.
In a lot of, I mean, the reason we are in this issue or in this situation is there is a misalignment between principles and business models, and
Right.
if
Yeah.
there is an alignment there, things will fall in place. And but there is no alignment at this point for a lot of companies, and that's the reason we run into these issues.
Ooh.
Man,
Well, I mean,
got
I
on
think that's
got on the
a good thing to
soapbox
wrap
there.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll still end
Let
on a
me get off my
positive note.
soapbox.
If anything, go home or at home. I guess you're probably already at home. Search online how to change your DNS provider. 1.1.1 is what I recommend. If not, find something else that's privacy centric. You can probably do it. It's a lot less scary and pretty easy to change if you want to. But that's kind of just the first step you can do to kind of take control or at least attempt to and protect you. And I mean, it works well. So it's not like you're sacrificing anything by using a subpar product by any means. And if you are using Google DNS, I think it's like 8.8.8.8 or the fours, please don't. And the ISP might be better than giving it to Google. I don't know, but just a thought. But yeah, let's wrap with that. A lot to cover, but we'll see you guys next Friday, and we'll do it again. Hopefully, there's less news to cover, but I feel like there won't be. Like, share, subscribe, of course. Really, just subscribe. I don't really care if you like. We just want to hit that 100 mark so we can rename that YouTube URL because it's really annoying. I think we're at like 55 right now. So, any subscribes, tell your friends. We appreciate it. See y'all next week.